Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson, and today I'm going to be looking at Trial of the Temples. When I saw that this was an Emperor's 4 game, I was intrigued, as I've enjoyed many of their previous games, and the cover on this one really reminded me of their Realm of Sand and Mystery of the Temples, both of which I have enjoyed. So in this one, you're a powerful archmage, and you've come to an arena to complete in 3 trials to become blah blah blah. So the backstory is really generic and uninteresting, so we'll skip that. But this game uses a variation of the I split you choose mechanism to determine where your mage will go to collect resources. But I always find Emperor's 4, they tend to add a little twist to the game to give it more depth, but still keep it relatively simple gameplay. So, will this be a powerful spell of a game, or will it just end up fizzling out? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and we'll come back with my final thoughts on Trial of the Temples. Here's Trial of the Temples set up. The trial tracks are placed in the middle, with the temple tiles on their day side in a random order around the outside, and you place the day-night tile on top of a random tile. Place all the spell cores on the respective trial boards with the purple ones in the middle. Now these spell cores are limited based on the player count. Put the round tiles in the stack, and the crystals and action tokens in the supply off to one side. Each player will choose a color and take the respective spell mat, which will tell you what their starting resources are, along with the matching archmage figure and 4 player markers. 1 marker on the beginning of each of the trial tracks, and 1 on the 0 space of your mana track. The game is played over 5 rounds. At the end of the game, whoever has the most trial points, or VP, will win. Each phase will start with a day-night phase. You'll turn over the next round tile and it will show a number. Move the day-night tile that many spaces forward and turn each tile it passes to its night side. Any previous tiles that were turned the previous round are turned back to their day side. Now the only exception is the first round of the game, in which you'll just reveal the round tile and turn over that many preceding tiles to their night side. We then go to the temple phase. Each player in player order will place their archmage on a temple tile. Now only 1 archmage per tile. You cannot place on the day-night tile, and an archmage cannot be completely surrounded by other archmages or an archmage and the day-night tile. Once everyone has placed their archmage, you go into the collect resources phase. Starting with the start player, collect the main resource from the tile that you're on, which is the one at the top, plus any of the linked resources. That is the resources on the bottom of all the cards between your archmage and other archmages or the barrier, which is the line on the day-night tile. You'll be collecting the different crystals and action tokens, maybe 2 mana points or spell cores. The spell cores will be placed on your spell mat, and I'll be talking about the spell mat in a bit. The player who collects from the night side of the day-night tile will also become first player starting in the next phase. Once all players have collected the resources, we go to the trial phase. In new player order, players will either begin a trial or rest. To begin a trial, you must spend 1 action token and choose one of the 3 trial tracks. You're then going to spend crystals to move up to 3 spots, spending the crystals for each spot that you move into. You automatically skip over other players' markers and do not need to spend crystals for those skipped spaces, but each player you skip this way will receive 1 mana point. If you pass by or end on any space containing a spell core reward, take that color and add it to your spell mat. If there are no cubes of that color left, take a purple cube instead, and if there's no purple left, you gain 2 points. If you do not have the crystals to do a trial and choose to rest, your turn is over for this round. Take your archmage back and return all of your crystals and action tokens to the supply. After all players have rested, the round is over and you start the next round by turning over the next round marker, moving the day-night tile, and flipping over the appropriate tiles. If this is the end of the 5th round, go to final scoring. You can always perform an anytime action during your turn. You can spend 2 mana to get an action token, spend 4 mana to get a crystal of any color, or spend 1 action token or 1 crystal to get 1 mana point. And these conversions can be done as many times as you can afford. Now, before we go into final scoring, let's talk about the spell mat. Whenever you get a spell core, you place it on your mat immediately. In each of the 4 rows and columns, each color of spell core can only appear once. The spell mat is split into different abilities. The resource gaining spells allow you to gain a resource every round, and usually for most of these, when you use it during a round, move your spell core to cover it to show that you've used it, and at the end of the round you uncover it again. The resource converting spells allow you to convert one thing into another thing. Again, these are once per round. The end of game bonuses will give you points at the end of the game and could give you an ability that when you rest you gain a mana, or give you extra storage space to hold crystals from round to round so you don't have to discard them when you rest. The final spells will give you resources, but these are a once per game spell. Now the game will end when there are no spell cores left, or the last space on 2 trial tracks is occupied, or you've played 5 rounds. Each player will then score points based on their position on each trial track, and then check your spell mat. For each row or column with 3 or 4 crystals, you will score 2 or 4 points. And finally, add any points from the spell bonuses that you've collected. The player with the most trial points is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about Trial of the Temples. Theme and components. The theme is forgettable, and even the theme that is there is really not that interesting. Your Archmage is collecting resources to move up some tracks. Nope, sorry, theme did not work for this one. Now I'm not saying that detracted from the game at all, it's just that it could just been about any theme just as well. As for the components, they are, I kind of feel hit or miss. The player boards are flimsy and very slick, which means that if you bump it at all, your cubes move around. Now it's nothing game breaking, but can be annoying. The cubes and crystals themselves are, I would say, average, as are the wooden components. Now the central boards with the day-night tiles and the temple tiles are better quality, and they look really good. The art is really nice and sharp, especially on those tiles. So components are a mixed bag. On to the gameplay. Luckily for me, the gameplay definitely shines here. Each round is split into 2 halves. The place your mage phase, and then you do the trials. Both halves I enjoyed. The place your mage phase uses a variation of the I pick you choose. If I'm first, I'm splitting the wheel into 2. The next player will pick a side and split that into 2 as well. And these splits are usually not equal. And then the next player and so on. This phase really offers some good decisions. If you're first, you get your choice of where to go, and you pick exactly the place where you want to put your Archmage, and you're guaranteed to get that main set. But going last means you get to decide what everyone gets to some degree. Every time I went first, it was with bated breath that I was watching the other players thinking, don't go there, no, move your hand away, I need that spot, come on, move it a little further. And with 4 players, it gets even more cutthroat. I kind of think I like it at best for that reason. Now deciding what resources to get is also a good decision point. If you get all crystals but no action tokens, then you need to spend mana to get action tokens, and vice versa. Getting no tokens but lots of action tokens is just as bad. Now the second half of the round, doing the trials is less tense, as you're kind of working out what trial you can do. And getting those action tokens is vital, as without them, you're not doing anything. I didn't find the second half of the round as engaging, as you spend most of the time kind of maximizing your resources to try and move up the 3 steps on the trial, or you're waiting for other people to do the same thing. Now I did find some negatives to the game. The first major one is this game is prone to analysis paralysis. The first half with placing your Archmage, I didn't find it was that bad waiting for each player is only putting out their Archmage. Now you do have to think about the best spot, but there's only so much you can do about the other players. The second half of the round really does slow down, especially later on in the game where you have lots of options. Now I did like the mechanism there of kind of looking at your resources and figuring out the best way to use them, and hopefully everybody can be doing this at the same time. But sometimes if a player moves on a trial track that you weren't expecting, it's going to alter what resources you need, and you kind of have to rethink on your turn of what you want to do. I'm also a little worried about the replayability aspect of the game. The only thing that changes from game to game is the position of the temple tiles. The goals in the trial tracks never change, which means you're always going to be doing essentially the same strategy each game. And while I did find it enjoyable for my plays, I can see this one after a while being forgotten about, as I kind of, I've done that. So would I recommend this game? For sure. I enjoyed the main mechanisms of choosing where I was going to play my Archmage. I also enjoyed the mechanism of the resource conversion for the trials. And I like that it's an easy game to grasp. Place your Archmage, get resources, use resources. The game length at 45 minutes or so feels like a good length. Unfortunately, as people try and figure out the best possible way to use their resources, this can lead to some downtime. I also think that the replayability, since there's only ever one path to victory, may suffer in the long run. But with all that, I'm giving this a 7.5 out of 10 and the Dice Tower seal of approval. If you're looking for a game that is simple to play, but still offers some tough decisions to be made, then you should definitely check this one out. And that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.